Hi, welcome to this episode of Thai Food. On this episode, I'm going to make my AuGratin potatoes, or as my buddy Mike likes to call them, all-rotten potatoes. But he seemed to like them pretty well when I made them. So we're going to want to have, I've got about 5 really large potatoes, and then one like medium to small potato. I've already peeled, and I washed them first, then peeled them, and I got them soaking in the water. I'm going to go ahead and drain this water off real quick because we're going to work on slicing them while we're making our sauce. You always want to put your potatoes in cold water or room temperature water after you peel them so that they don't brown on you. I'm going to get my skillet here on a medium high. There we go. And I got 6 tablespoons of butter here. I'm going to go ahead and put that in there, let that start melting. And while that's melting, I'm going to work on getting ready to slice the potatoes. I've got this little nifty mandolin style slicer with a catch basin underneath it. It came with several different attachments. It came with a fine grater, a coarse grater, like a julienne style slicer, and then it's got this slicer. And this is what I'm going to use to slice the potatoes because I'll get a nice even cut on them that I can't do by hand. Trust me, I'm not that good with a knife. So if you can pick up yourself a mandolin, or if you have one, it's going to be really handy for this recipe. You'll use it for other things as well. I got a mini one that I like to use for garlic. It gets it really nice and paper thin, kind of like they do on the movie Goodfellas with the razor blade. I can't do that by hand. I'll cut myself too much. So I'm going to go ahead and start breaking these down into smaller pieces so they're not such big slices. They'll make it easier to manage with this. Alright, and I'm going to toss my onions in here with the butter. There we go. I'm going to bump that down to a medium now. And you want to just start kind of cooking the onion. While that's cooking, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. It does seem like a lot of salt, but potatoes absorb a lot of flavor. And there was one recipe I looked at before I tried making this myself. They called for 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and I'm making a double batch. So you can imagine 3 teaspoons of salt, that would have been a lot of salt. So I'm just going to go with 1 teaspoon because I don't want to make this too salty. You can always add extra in later. And the salt helps draw the moisture out. Got to bump that back up now. All that moisture coming out of the onions from just that little bit of salt. Alright, back to the potatoes here. Now that was 1 small onion that I had chopped up there for this recipe. And I'm going to use my roasted garlic paste in it later. That's my homemade roasted garlic paste. I do have that video on my YouTube channel. So if you wanted to make your own, you could. If you don't want to, you can always just use 1 fresh clove of garlic minced up really good. And then you throw that in right about now. In with the onions there. Okay. So we got them all sliced. Set my knife back there and just kind of be very careful because it is sharp and you just that quick. I'll go a little slower when I get to the end here because I don't want to slice my fingers off. Keeping an eye on my onions while I'm doing this. Alright, so you can see it's getting kind of full, so we need to empty some of this out, obviously. So that's why I've got such a big bowl. Start putting the sliced ones in there until I'm ready to put them into the sauce. Alright, so this is right about where we want it. Now we're going to add about 1/3 of a cup of flour, just an all-purpose flour to make a roux. Get that coated in here. I'm going to bump that down to a medium-low now, because now we're just cooking the flour a little bit, making a bit of a paste, getting that raw flour taste out of it. Now also I want to add my black pepper in, and I'm just going to use 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, so we don't overpower nothing here, but we accentuate flavors. And we want to add the roasted garlic paste, since I'm not using the fresh garlic. 1/2 tablespoon of roasted garlic paste, or if you don't have a 1/2 tablespoon, it's about 1.5 teaspoons. Because 3 teaspoons equals 1 tablespoon, I believe, if I'm correct. I could be wrong. I usually have to look that one up, but I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, that's what it is. Rinse my fingers real quick here. This can come together quite quickly here, so get the peppers all mixed up. Get that garlic mixed in there, cooking. Scrape my bottom. Got some fond on the bottom, as they call it. Little brown bits. This has made quite the paste at this point, which is good. Like I said, I kind of want to cook that flour taste off. Slice a couple potatoes here while it's still cooking. If you can't multitask, which you see I'm kind of struggling a little myself, you could always pre-slice this and have it ready to go. Or make the sauce and it'll hold on the stove while you're slicing your potatoes. Because I made this at Christmas time, on Christmas Eve, and that's what I did. I made the sauce first and then I sliced the potatoes. For some reason I thought I could maybe do it all at once here, which I don't think I'm doing too bad, but I ain't got a lot of experience in the kitchen myself. So now I'm going to add the liquid here. Well, I got a little cooled off on me. I'm going to bump it up here to medium. And I've got 2 cups of 1/2 here that I'm going to add in. And that'll bring the temperature down right there also. And then I want to add 2 cups of milk. Now, you could just use straight 1/2 if you wanted to, but I'm just going to use milk and 1/2 myself. Then I got some 1/2 to make a risotto recipe later. Yeah, look at me getting all fancy making risotto. I know. I made that for Christmas as well. Or was it Thanksgiving? No, it wasn't Thanksgiving. I made it one of the nights near Christmas. I know that. Let's put it that way. I did a lot of cooking this past holiday season. Just let that come up to temperature there while I continue to slice my potatoes here. You can see it makes pretty quick work slicing the potatoes, unless you drop it like that, until it gets full, like it is now. So I'll pull a couple more of the halves out, as I got room on the cutting board, before I bury them. There we go. You can see this recipe will make a pretty good sized pan, and I got that hiding back here. We're going to lightly grease that later when we go to add everything in. As this is warming up here, I'm going to go ahead and add my black gold. And I did something with my teaspoon. I don't know where it hid it, so we'll pull one out. And actually, I got a 1/4 teaspoon here. I'm only doing a 1/2 teaspoon of this. This is my homemade black gold recipe. So 2 1/4 teaspoons here. This will add a lot of umami flavor to this and make it really good. A little touch of smoke and some other flavors that are in there as well. It goes really well with it. Okay, finish that one off. Now, I also got shredded cheese here that's going to go in this recipe. That's 4 ounces of an extra sharp and 4 ounces of a Monterey Jack. Now, every other recipe I've consulted before I made my own, they pretty much just use shredded cheddar cheese. But I like the sharpness of the extra sharp cheddar myself. And then I didn't want to overpower the dish with such a sharp cheese, so I cut it with some Monterey Jack, which is nice creamy cheese. And pretty much all AuGratin means is you browned it on top. So it's basically just a potato recipe that's browned on top when you're done baking it. It takes about 1.5 hours to bake it. You want to do 1 hour uncovered, or sorry, 1 hour covered, and the last 30 minutes you're going to uncover it. And at the end, if you want a little more browning on top, just throw it under the broiler and keep track of it, because it will go quick, whether it's on low or high. Give this a stir here. See, it's starting to steam. That's a good thing. Want to get it to the point where it gets thick on us. That's when we know we've done good. Okay. Just keep slicing and watching it. Shouldn't take it too long to finish heating up here. And then we'll get the cheese in and finish the rest of the recipe real quick. I think I'm going to give the camera a quick break while I'm finishing this up here and keeping an eye on my sauce, and we'll come back to you in a couple minutes. Alright, I just finished slicing up the last of these potatoes here. Our sauce here is starting to thicken up a little bit. And at this point I want to add in our cheddar cheese and Monterey Jack cheese that we shredded. I'm going to go ahead and just dump it right in. Scrape out my bowl. There we are. Just get that melted in. And it's going to be a bit of a loose sauce, but it's going to be flavorful. And it will thicken while it's baking in the oven as well. So if it's not thick enough for you, you can always add more flour if you want, but it'll probably come out like a paste if you do that. You want it like AuGratin potato sauce consistency, obviously. There we go. We've got our cheese melted in. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. I know it's here somewhere. There we go. Pause, clear. Okay. We want to take and we're going to mix in our sliced potatoes into the sauce recipe. And then we'll pour it all into the pan. Go. Get these all mixed in and coated as much as possible. Just gotta break up the slices, and If they stick together and clump together, you won't even notice, to be honest with you, because around Christmas time when I made this, I didn't really spend a whole lot of time, you know, mixing them in. I just kind of coated them real quick and then threw them into the pan. So I'll be honest, I'm kind of spending a little more time on it now than I did. But it come out really good and flavorful. My father even told me it was better than what he gets in the restaurant. That's saying something right there. Because my mother doesn't generally make it for him, I guess. She might now that she sees this video, though. Who knows? Okay. I'm going to let this sit here and marry real quick while I move some stuff. Get things out of my way. I'm going to have to do some dishes in a little bit. Alright, so I'm baking it in one of these. It kind of made a little bit of a mess in the Pyrex. Not that it made it that difficult to clean. You just had to soak it and take a little bit longer. So I'm going to go ahead and I've got some zesty garlic mist spray. You can use whatever spray you want to grease this. Just kind of concentrate on the sides a little bit and then give the bottom a light spray to heavy medium spray, kind of like so. And that should make it easier to get it out of there when you're done. Got a little bit on my hand. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and dump this in. Now normally at this point I would have preheated the oven, but I'm actually making this now and I'm going to bake it later for dinner. So I'm just going to have it standing by ready to go. There we go. I'll get all this goodness out of here too. I know Mike's not a big fan of onions, but I'm not even sure if he noticed they were in here when I made this. He don't like mushrooms either. Come over one night, refused to eat goulash that we made because he didn't like the mushrooms. But to each their own, you know. He found something to eat. He didn't go hungry. Just kind of scraping every little bit out. I almost feel like this made a bigger batch than what I made for Christmas. But that's okay. Shiloh, my son, will help me eat this. I'm being a little picky about how much I'm scraping out here, but that's just me. I may be a bit OCD here. But it's less you gotta wash out of it later too. Just kind of even this out a bit. Make sure they're all somewhat laying flat. Not sticking up too much. Don't want burnt ends, you know. That's a whole different thing made with pork. It's pretty good too, let me tell you. There we go. That's that. So at this point, I would cover this with aluminum foil and bake it for 1 hour at 350 degrees. And then you take the aluminum foil off and bake it again for another 30 minutes in the oven at 350 degrees. If it's not brown and toasty on top the way you want it, just turn the broiler on low and keep an eye on it. But there you have it. That's my potatoes au gratin recipe. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in. Feel free to check me out on Facebook under Thai Food for the group. I'm on Twitter for Thai Food. My Instagram is Thai Food on YouTube with all like underlined stuff in between each word, because for whatever reason it wouldn't let me do it the other way. And feel free to hit the little bell icon, subscribe to my channel, and leave feedback. Let me know what you think. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.